So, impression management, I was talking about things that affect people's view of you, and you need to be aware of how they do it. There's lots of things on the internet about how do you view, how people watch you, how you dress for success, what you should carry, what you should behave, all of that. Lots of good advice out there, and lots of books on how to do that. And the shorthand version is watch what successful people in your organization do. How do they dress? How do they behave? Even how do they move? What are their behaviors? What do they do before a meeting starts? What do they do at the end of a meeting? Do they rush out to the next meeting? Do they stop and talk to people? Are they taking notes? Right? Watch the little things. Do they greet people when they walk into the room? Do they know people's names? Right? All that matters. And if someone, it helps if someone has a similar style to yours. So if they're very outgoing and gregarious, but you're the quiet, studious type, that's probably not the right person to emulate. If you make it too forced, it'll be obvious. So find somebody who's kind of like you, but we all have got room for improvement, and start to adjust your behaviors. Remember, behaviors are habits. They've been developed over a long period of time. They take an amount of time to improve, to get better with, and you're going to take practice. So you have to practice, practice, practice. I had an intern who was a very smart engineering student, one of the smartest, hardworking students I had. And one of the other managers asked me about that kid. He doesn't seem like much. He doesn't have much on the ball, huh? I go, what are you talking about? He's really smart. He's really hardworking. He goes, oh, really? Because that's not the impression I get from him. And I wondered why. Well, first of all, he didn't dress very well, but he's a broke college kid, so okay. But then when he walked down the hallway, he kind of shuffled. He kind of moseyed. He was just slow walking and didn't pick up his feet. So I took him in the hallway and I said, okay, we got to walk to the other end of the building to do something, to go to the lab, but you need to walk differently. You need to walk with a purposeful stride. You need to pick your feet up. You need to walk faster. You need to act like you are an important person with important things to do. So I literally took him out in the hallway to the corridor and I taught him how to walk. Right, and we walked faster, right? And then we would practice this a couple times a week. Come on, let me see it. Let's go. Here we go. Come on, off we go to walk, right? And act like you got somewhere to go. So by the end of the 3 months work session he was on, he was walking like he had some place to go, like he was an important person, like he was doing something. Now, keep in mind, he was really smart and really hardworking, so he was doing something anyway. He just didn't look like it when he shuffled down the hallway. So I remember after we went back to school, this other manager said, boy, that kid really picked it up, huh? You really whipped him into shape. And I didn't do anything but taught him how to walk better. So that was kind of interesting. The longer version of the story is that manager who was worried about this guy, really got to like him. He worked with him next time he was back for a work term. He really liked him. And he ended up introducing him to his daughter. He was hoping they were going to date. So I thought that was kind of funny. Didn't work out. They were just friends. But anyway. So other things you should do about the impression management, think about your speech errors and your pauses when you're giving presentations. I'll come back to the elevator speech. Do you do the ums and ahs and all of that? Practice speaking out loud. Practice speaking in front of others. Don't shy away from it. The worse you are at it, the more you need it. Right? That's the problem with public speaking. People are good at it, like to do, and people aren't good at it, don't like to do it. Make yourself do it. If you don't want to do it at work because people will think less of you, do it outside of work. Join a club, join an organization, become a committee chair where you have to publicly speak. Practice, practice, practice. You'll get better at it. Watch the internet. Get stuff on YouTube on how to be a better public speaker. All that will help. At work, watch your negative statements. When people start talking about stuff, you start doing, I don't know, I don't think so, right? Don't be an Eeyore, right, from Winnie the Pooh. Don't be all gloom and doom. Don't be no and can't, right? Yeah, that might work. Yeah, we could try that. We could, even if you know it won't work. Well, we could take a look at that. We can investigate that. I see your point, right? Be optimistic even if you think it doesn't really require optimism, right? So there's many, many people who tell you no. I was talking to an executive one time, and I was going into a meeting when I was really young with all these executives, and I asked the one guy who was kind of my mentor, what do I do in this meeting? And he said, first of all, don't say anything unless they ask you a question. I said, okay, fine. And he says, unless they say something about your area that's patently not true, or you see a problem what they're saying. I said, so if I see a problem, I point it out. And he said, only if you have the answer. People tell them no and can't and all that all the time. So if you see a problem, only bring it up if you know the answer. Because if you don't know the answer, then why bring it up? Because it's going to be a problem anyway. So that's of no help, right? So if you see a problem and you know the answer, bring it up. So help them out. Eye shifting, right? And increased blinking. We have people that watch the politicians. How many times do they blink and the frowns and all that? Watch for your signs of nervousness, fondling, manipulating objects. So are you playing with jewelry? Are the girls playing with their necklace, or they're twisting their finger in their hair? Those are all signs of stress, and they're very distracting. I used to have a colleague of mine at work used to click his pen all the time, and I would take his pens away from him during meetings. It's very distracting. Leg fidgeting or general fidgeting period, or sometimes even using fewer gestures. So the person who holds himself perfectly still doesn't trust himself to move, so that's a tell, right? They're not comfortable, they're nervous or whatever. And then the first thing on this list was the elevated speaking pitch. They get higher, they get louder. Be careful, watch your speaking. Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister of England. When she was in the Parliament, they used to call her the shrill, or I guess this is the shrill. Her voice would get really high and louder when she would get excited, when she would be mad about something, and they would make fun of her for it. So she couldn't make her point because they couldn't get past her delivery. So if you remember Margaret Thatcher, when she was Prime Minister, she was famous for speaking low and slow. She would modulate her voice down and speak slowly, and that's how she got the shrill out of her voice, and that was necessary for her to run England, right? I thought that was kind of interesting. I see the word elevated reminds me that I usually have my students make an elevator speech, right? So an elevator speech is a 30-second introduction of yourself. So if you meet somebody new, and they say, tell me about yourself, what are you going to tell them? You should have things in there, it depends on your age. You should have things in there like your work experience, your education level, to give them an idea who you are and what your capabilities are. I've done this, right? So, and then have good things to tell them. As I tell my younger undergraduate students, the fact that you've done this thing unpaid doesn't matter. So they'll say, oh, but I have never had a job. What can I say? Well, have you been in a club? Yes. Have you been on a team? Yes. Talk about those things. You've been the captain of the soccer team, or you've been an officer in a club, and if you're in college and you haven't done that stuff, then go do that stuff, right? Join that stuff. Volunteer to be a committee chair, those type things. So you get that experience. You can practice being a leader, you can practice being a manager, you can practice your public speaking, right? All that is to the good. So the more you practice, the better you'll get. All right, so this concludes our section on leadership. I am going to add just one more quick story about my favorite leader, George Washington.